Hey everybody, so I had said that I was going to start doing a video every week, and this weekend I didn't have the time that I normally have, so I'm just going to do a little quick thing just here on my phone, and hopefully it'll come out alright. Bear with me. The reason that I was not able to get to the video and do the production that I normally do is because I was actually, and I'm not saying this for any pity or anything, but my grandfather passed away, and I was at his funeral this weekend, which took a lot of time and takes a lot out of you, and so I just didn't get around to doing the normal video that I would normally do. But I have some cool stuff on the way anyway. But one thing I wanted to take an opportunity to do here is when I went to the funeral, they had people come up and stand up and give stories about my grandfather. And for one reason or another, my cat's going to interrupt this. For one reason or another, I didn't stand up. I guess I chickened out a little bit. The best story that I had was something that I had kind of written down somewhere before in a book that everybody had already read, so I didn't get up and say it, but I'm kind of wishing I had now. I kind of regret not doing that because it was kind of a big moment, and the story that I had was something that, especially with some years, has taken on a new significance to me. So I would like to take that opportunity now to share that story with you. So here we go. When I was growing up, my grandfather, he went by the name Buster. I call him Pop. I never called him Buster, but a lot of other people called him Buster. I always thought that was a very odd name for a grown man to have, and I didn't really understand where it came from. His real name was James. We all had J names, so I knew it wasn't his real name or anything. I was told that it was because he was just such a dominating football player when he was in high school. But when I was a kid, I was kind of like, that doesn't make sense. Why would you have the same name all through your life that you had in high school? I mean, I'm sure he was a great football player, but I don't know if he was that good. But it was just always kind of a funny thing to me, like, why does he go by Buster? Well, anyway, several years later, many years later, when I was a teenager, I went out to visit my grandparents. They live in a very small town out near Abilene, Texas, and have a big ranch out there. So I went out, and one of the days that I was there, Pop wanted me and a couple of cousins of mine, named Jed and Ben, brothers, to help him take down a building there in town. It was like an old grain silo or barn or something. It was like 2.5 stories tall. It was a really tall red wooden building. But he wanted us to help him tear down this building. But he wanted to reclaim the wood. He wanted to use it for something else. So instead of just knocking it all down, we were kind of taking it apart piece by piece. And it was, it was fun. But we ran into a problem, being that it was such a tall building. How were we going to get the boards from the top? Because it was literally like a 3-story tall building. And it was empty on the inside. So a little bit of country ingenuity kicked in, and we started building this elaborate and incredibly dangerous structure to reach the top of the building. And I started fearing for my life because I just knew that I was going to be the one that had to go to the top of this thing. I was the smallest one there by far. I was probably like 100 pounds. And I just knew that I was going to have to be the one that went up there. And I just was I became very nervous and scared and preparing myself for my demise. And at some point, I slipped outside. I went out to my car somewhere, and when I came back in, I see my 2 cousins standing there with like their Dr. Peppers in their hand, and they're just... And I look up, and at the top of this death trap is my grandpa. He's up at the top of this thing, and it's swaying back and forth, and I can't overemphasize how insane this thing was. I mean, it was like a ladder stacked on top of another ladder with a 2x4 balanced on a can of paint. It was insane. And at the top of it was this 70-year-old man just razzling a piece of wood, And as I'm standing there watching this guy and thinking he's just completely insane for doing this, one word kept popping up in my head. Buster. That's how you get a name like Buster. And I've told that story before, but with some years, like I said before, it's had a new significance to me because I came to figure out years later that he wasn't up there because he was crazy, and he wasn't up there because he was fearless. He was fearless, but that's not why he was up there. He was up there because he loved us. He was up there because there was no way he was going to let one of us go up there and take that risk. And without batting an eye, without hesitating for a second, he went up there himself and put himself in harm's way so that we wouldn't have to. My grandpa was not just fearless with his body, he was fearless with his heart. And if there's a better way and a better example of how to live your life, I don't know what that would be. So that's my story about my grandpa. That's what I should have gotten up and said at his funeral. I wish I had, but this is my chance to do that. And my wish for you is that you live your life as fearlessly and with as much love as he did. And I would ask all of you to take some time and visit with your grandparents, because you won't always be able to, and I wish I had done it more. But I hope that didn't bum you out too much. It is my favorite story about my grandfather. I loved him and I miss him, and all the best to all of you. Thanks for watching.